guys, welcome to Living the Empowered Life channel. My name is Yvonne and this channel is all about bringing you content that's empowering, encouraging and inspiring. On this channel I share tips and things to help you to live an empowered life. I also share book reviews of books that I've read in case you want to check them out for yourself, and from time to time when I go out and about I take you along with me. So if this is the type of content you're looking for, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be notified of any new uploads. And if you do like the content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. So today guys, I want to share with you a book review. So it's been a little bit of a while since I've done a book review. I can't actually remember the last one. Oh yes, it was Barbara Cochrane's book that I did a review on, and I still can't quite remember the name quite now, but I will leave a link to that video for that book review here. So it has been a little bit of a while since I've done a book review, but today I've come back to give you a review of a book that I actually read twice. Now the book is by an author called Sarah JESS and it is called Shopping Addiction: The Raw Story of How I Lived Beyond My Means in Order to Become Someone Else. Now I bought this book in June 2023, I bought it off Amazon. I paid £6.53 for this book. You know, if you've watched my other book review videos, I have said that I like to thrift books. And I actually have found a new shop to thrift books from, where I picked up 2 books for under £5, and I will share that shop with you in another video. But I paid £6.53 for this book, and in my opinion it was worth every single penny. So I'll tell you what the book is about. It's about this lady called Sarah JESS, which I think that is her on the cover of the book. And I really like, first of all, the image of this cover, because it is showing that she's hiding her identity, and basically she is kind of correlating that to her shopping addiction. She was hiding her identity behind her shopping addiction to become somebody else. Now Sarah in this book, I have to say, first of all, in sharing her story, in sharing her experiences of shopping addiction, you know, I have to say is so brave and so courageous. This book moved me to tears because of how honest and open and vulnerable Sarah allowed herself to be in order to share with us the reality of shopping addiction. And quite rightly in this book, she says that shopping addiction is not something that is treated very seriously. You see, I got this book because I know that in struggling at times to deal with negative emotions and negative feelings, one of the techniques, one of the tools that I've always used over the years, which started from, you know, I can identify it going back to after the sexual abuse I went through in my childhood, is using money or things to escape negative feelings, to escape negative emotions. It's really been an eye-opening experience to read somebody else's story and see myself in their story, see the struggles of trying to handle when in life things are not going the way that you had ever hoped for, and you then will use something like shopping to escape those feelings or to escape the disappointment or discouragement you feel. You know, I recognize so much of myself in Sarah sharing her story, and she's right in saying that shopping addiction or having problems with shopping is not treated seriously. She talks about trying to, before she wrote this book, looking around for help, because obviously she realized that she had a serious issue in this department. And Sarah is from America, but basically she was saying that there is no help, there's no real recognition of the impact of shopping addiction. And I remember back in like 2002, 2003 watching Shopaholics. I don't know if any of you remember that program if you're over here in the UK, with Jay and I can't remember the lady's name, but they would go around and help people who had shopping addiction. So Jay was the one that did more of the kind of therapy work, and the lady, I can't quite remember her name, was the one that kind of helped them to become more resourceful with the things that they had and gave them a budget and things like that. It was a very popular program. It used to come on BBC Two, I think it was, but it was called Shopaholics. That really opened my eye at the time to shopping addiction and how people will hide behind shopping to, deal with pain and trauma and different things. Sarah's story really touches upon shopping addiction. She identifies that her battle with wanting more started in her childhood. She labelled herself as a greedy child, somebody that always wanted more. And as she got older, that acquirement, that thirst for more was something that was really like a stronghold in her life. She talked about, coming up in secondary school and all the popular and, well-to-do girls had the money to buy all the kind of nicer stuff, whilst she was struggling with bullying and different difficult situations in school. So in order to kind of help herself to be liked and to deal with that, she started to get these same items as these girls. Sometimes, she said in her book, she stole to get it. Sometimes, she was quite manipulative to get it. And when things became very difficult for her, as she went through different situations in life, she would create alter egos for herself, like a different name to her birth name, Sarah, to kind of symbolise the point in her life where she was at the time, in order to cope, basically, with her life. I really got a sense of her frustration in feeling that, life wasn't where she wanted it to be. She was very creative and did different jobs to try and get creative, and be like what she wanted to be in her profession, but it never quite worked out. And it left a lot of frustration for her in her life. She went through a really bad relationship that created pain for her. And again, when she went through that pain, she would, create another name for herself and buy a whole new wardrobe to honour that name and live like that person. This book for me was a really inspiring book. I read this book twice. I've had it since June 2023, and it is one of those books, when you read it, you can't just read it cover to cover. You have to, especially if it's a book that touches on an area of your life that that you struggle with, you have to allow it that time to sink in. I read it through the first time and I felt really convicted by some of the things that I read. It helped me to recognise some patterns in my own self about my own spending habits. And then when I read it through the second time, I was able to see some things that I could start to use for myself and start to recognise some roots of where my own little challenges came from. I've never really seen somebody be so open and vulnerable about their challenges in this area like this. Yes, you do get books on people struggling with shopping and it's just like help points, but to talk about things, for example, like emptiness to fill, talking about going through trying to fill that void within her heart, in her life, with things, her battles with credit cards, her battles with shopping addiction, recognising that she was trying to fill a part of her with these things, but what it really needed filling with was with God. And she's very open and honest about how God has helped her in her quest to overcome shopping addiction. She has a spiritual awareness about how these things can have a consequence for her life. The fact that she felt that not being able to be content with what she had was something that, was troubling to her. She also kind of thought about the ethical kind of dilemmas of the people that were working for peanuts for her to have all these nice things. She talked about, her battles just with where she is in life and the cold turkey phase that she went through, where she cut up all her credit cards and tried to go cold turkey and getting so far, then breaking it, and then having to start again. And there were so many things that I got from her book that this book should be a worldwide bestseller, because so many people struggle with shopping addiction. So many people struggle with spending and living beyond their means, especially in the first world society that we live in now. A lot of people treat it as it is normal to always be hoarding things. You only have to look across social media of people over indulging, over consuming, spending money on things that they really don't need. I mean, I watched a video where this lady was talking about the Stanley Cups. They're quite expensive, and even to have one is a blessing because they are expensive. But this lady was showing a video of this girl that went and got Stanley Cups in every single colour just so she could have a colourful shelf. She will never use all those Stanley Cups. She will never drink out of all of them, but she just had to have them in every colour. And it's become a normal part of society where over-consuming, spending and buying multiple things that you don't need has just become accepted. And a lot of people have a spending problem, but they will never admit it, especially with social media, which kind of promotes it, that makes it seem, normal to have certain things, or normal to portray a certain image. Even just an image of something and seeing people live a certain way is so powerful, but behind the scenes people struggle. So in Sarah sharing her honest story in this book, I think that it should be applauded. The rawness of how she shared her addiction as well, she didn't sugarcoat anything, was just beautiful for me to read. Obviously it was very hard for her to write and to admit to some of the things that she shared in this book, but honesty and vulnerability and transparency is one of the most beautiful things you can ever hope to see in a book from somebody who's sharing something from their experience. I was able to do that in my book with Daughter Arise, talking about my childhood sexual abuse. So I appreciate, as a writer and an author, when somebody else does it, who's an author, who's written a book, does it as well. Because in sharing so honestly and openly, she wants to help people. She wants to help people to confront this area of their life. So there was many things that I got from her book. The first thing is that you have to admit that you've got a problem. The next thing that I got from her book is that, like any addiction or anything that you struggle with in life, there will be a battle. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be times where you fall, but you have to be focused. You have to not give up. You have to continue on. I've also got from her book that you can become creative with what you have. And there is so many things that I'm going to share in another video, because this video is quite long as it is. But in the second part of this video, I'm going to touch upon lessons learned from her book, because I really do feel it's important for anybody out there who wants to live an empowered life. In living an empowered life means that you're freeing yourself from things that keep you bound, whether it's relationships, whether it's jobs, whether it's financial constrictions, whatever it is. Living an empowered life is about being free to be able to make the choices you want in your life. And sometimes in living an empowered life, you're not going to really be able to do that if you've got debt, if you have got things that are bounding you, if you're struggling with addiction, if there are things holding you back from your goals. This is why I've shared this book by Sarah JESS, because I feel it's important for many people out there, men and women, who struggle with shopping habits, shopping addiction, negative emotions. It's important to be able to deal with those things. So I definitely recommend this book, Shopping Addiction, The Raw Story of How I Lived Beyond My Means by Sarah JESS. It is an excellent book. It is a book that's going to help you with your personal development. If you're struggling in this area, I definitely recommend it. I will leave a link to it. It's only on Amazon from what I can see. Read this book, get it, read it, and and think about it. It's not one of those books you're going to rush through. I read, probably a chapter a week of this book. This book could have been finished a lot sooner, but I wanted to take it in. That's why I read it twice. It is a book that if you're going through things, it's really going to touch a nerve. I'm really thankful that God helped her through it and that she was able to move through a new awareness of her addiction and through, a new awareness of herself. But I will leave a link to it in the description box below. Until the next video, guys, take care.